Did you know that not a single country in the world practices democracy today?
Biden's a threat to democracy. He's a threat to democracy because he's incompetent.
It will be a particularly painful blow for democracy if the Ukrainians fail.
Democracy is how we've opened the doors of opportunity.
India is the mother of democracy.
Democracy has come to Nigeria to stay.
Democracy is on the ballot. The threat to democracy must be defended.
Democracy requires people to fight for it. If you don't fight for it, it disappears.
American democracy will remain, as it has been, the central cause of my presidency.
The word democracy is thrown about a lot by many countries today. And yet not one country, not least the United States of America, which poses as a champion of democracy, is actually a democracy. Let's take the United States, for example. Constitutionally, the founding fathers of the US decided not to create a democracy because they found democracies to be chaotic, short-lived, and dangerous to minorities, including the wealthy. It is that such democracies have ever been spectacles of turbulence and contention, have ever been found incompatible with personal security or the rights of property, and have in general been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. That was James Madison, one of the founding fathers of the US, describing democracy in the Federalist Papers, number 10. On top of the fact that they did not like the idea of a democracy, they also did not know how to make a democracy work in a large country. So creating a democracy was completely off the table. First, they decided instead to create a republic. Let it be clear, the reasons they gave for not adopting a democracy were wrong. They were mistaken on a few things. Nevertheless, the US was designed as, and still is, not a democracy, but a republic. A republic to them is where they entrust power to only a wise few to rule. These temporary rulers formed Congress. As we know now, the politicians that come to wield this power are anything but wise, and often corrupt and cruel. This is by design. Even if unintentionally, the system of politics we have necessarily places power in the hands of the most unsuitable, always. Secondly, they were also inspired by the English monarchy at the time, and wanted to have something akin to a king, the presidency. So, because they definitely did not want to create a democracy, the choice was between 1, a sort of gang rule, that is, Congress, which comes from their idea of a republic, and 2, a kingly rule, that is, the presidency, inspired by the English monarchy. The problem was, whoever got all power could become too powerful and abusive. A republic, Congress, could give power to a dangerous few to rule. A presidency could give power to a dangerous individual to rule. To avoid this, they decided on separation of powers. They gave some powers to Congress, other powers to a president, and a third set of powers to a judiciary, and tasked them to check each other, thus creating what is also called checks and balances. The people have no power or control over anything. They are only made to think they do. Also, this is why, contrary to what even the best scholars today would have you believe, separation of powers is not an element of democracy. It's only a way to manage autocracy. In fact, in a true democracy, separation of powers is not even needed, because democracy itself offers the maximum diffusion of power. That's the whole point of it. Now, among the three separate autocratic bodies given power to rule, in the beginning, Congress was more powerful than the president. But over time, the presidency assumed more and more powers. By the system's own design, the checks and balances that were also originally planned broke down almost immediately and has since become useless. Today, therefore, even more than in the past when it was created, the US is definitely autocratic due to its presidency. Over time, the meanings of words have been relaxed, and mixed with propaganda, many have been made to believe that the US is a democracy when it certainly is not. Far from that.
Police raids at the University of Chicago, contractors spray painted over them.
Society has to stand up.
Off with police at UCLA.
Arrested.
Exposed the CIA's most sensitive hacking tool. CIA was getting audio and video from inside the Ecuadorian embassy.
The U.S. had plans to abduct or even assassinate Julian Assange.
After he published details about U.S. activities overseas and unlawful mass surveillance.
The presidency does what it likes, to the displeasure of citizens all the time. No one can challenge the presidency, and that is the exact definition of autocracy, not democracy. This travesty has resulted in serious abuses of power by US presidents and politicians throughout history.
The US has been involved in tons of regime change efforts around the world. All of these coups, these plans to overthrow leaders in other countries, did not require American votes.
A Human Rights Watch report found that investigators created terrorists out of law-abiding individuals.
Come on, fire!
Not a single member of the Bush administration, from President George W. Bush himself to the legal architect of torture John Yoo, saw a day of accountability. None of its cheerleaders who wrote news stories regurgitating government propaganda apologized. No one was held accountable.
The list goes on and on throughout history to this very day. Horrible atrocities and abuses of power which we have barely scratched the surface of. No one has the power to do anything about it. And changing leaders changes nothing, because again, this is autocracy. What about the rest of the world? Is any other country a democracy? Most other countries' so-called democracies are modeled after the same autocratic design of the US and UK governments, which are definitely not democracies. The same problems, therefore, exist everywhere.
There have been running battles with protesters setting cars alight.
People that are still in jail, we don't know what.
With tents, people, and growing frustration. In Phoenix, the city recently cleared a large encampment. This year, Los Angeles County declared a state of emergency.
Day of rioting. And more arrests. People were arrested last night alone, with 45,000 police. Macron canceling a planned state visit to Germany. And the State Department urging Americans to stay away from the protests for their safety.
Tired of being voting machines or people equals power.
Government and Parliament must quickly act to calm an already agitated population.
18 million people suffering from hunger, including over 3 million children from the rebel Rapid Support Force in Khartoum. But estimates put the number of civilian deaths at over 10,000. conflicts.
The ongoing Israeli bombardment
and the suffering of people.
In southern Gaza, a car is reduced to wreckage. Blood stains the ground. International medical NGOs say they are being forced to leave Gaza due to the risk of staff being killed by Israel's bombardment. Sources. The World Health Organization.
Trash crisis spiraled out of control. Rotting rubbish was everywhere. Beirut streets drowning in trash.
And here's the kicker. The facts and arguments presented in this video don't even cover 5% of all the reasons absolutely no country in the world today, not even Switzerland, is a democracy. And this travesty surprisingly eludes even the highest institutions of learning and governance today. This is a fact that is irrefutably proven on so many levels in the book, The Tragedy Called Democracy in the 21st Century. The book shows how everything we know on democracy and governance is completely wrong and upside down. And it cites over 200 authoritative and verifiable references from government, historical, and first-hand sources for comparison and analyses. You can find more details and solutions in the book after this. Now, why is this all important? Most of the problems we face in the world today, from the endless wars to underdevelopment and lack of prudent policy and programs in healthcare, climate and environmental protection, social welfare, industry, and more, are all the result of placing power in a few terrible hands, who only ever laugh and bicker among themselves in so-called parliaments that are more like marketplaces. Only by creating a true democracy can we have a society in which the best solutions to our problems flow and are sustained more easily. How can we create a true democracy? The details are more than we can discuss in this video, but you can help now by creating awareness for our problems and its solutions. All you have to do to play your part is share this video now as widely as you can. Help spread the word. Only by coming together to understand our problems and solutions can we help create a true democracy where things finally work well for us all. A truly beautiful society is possible, where everyone has decent opportunities in life and where all our pertinent problems are solved, but only through true democracy. Luckily, all the answers on how to achieve this are now available. Like and share this video to help create awareness and bring society together for the biggest change in our history. It's time for true democracy.